What is up, guys? This is Daryl, the Cloud Pressure Reptiles, and today we had an interview with Anthony of Conley Herps. So before we cue the intro, I want to give a big shout out to my man Lone Wolf, man. Hey, happy birthday, bro. My birthday was yesterday, his birthday is today. So just want to make sure we give my man a shout out. Y'all go check his page out. Now, cue intro, and let's check out this interview.
It's the underdog, they don't hear my ball. Want the title, but I'm always fighting undercard. It's the underrated, I'm trying to make it. Yeah, I'm trying to tell them, I ain't trying to be no.
Hey guys, we are here with Anthony of Conley Herps. And first off, thank you for sitting down to do this interview. You don't really like being on camera too much, and then, you got a pretty busy schedule. So first off, thank you from us to you for even letting us come here to interview. First off, you just let everyone know just a little bit about yourself, and what you have going on here,
Okay. Conley Herps started as a business in 2003. It was never intended to be anything big. It was just a hobby. And it got to the point where I figured if I breed this one pair of snakes, it would pay to feed stuff for a month. Breed this pair, you may be able to afford a car payment, in the natural progression. I just held more snakes back until the point where it actually became problematic to feed them.
Gotcha.
Because the big distributors of rodents, the way they work is they have to have institutional clients to keep the bills paid 24/7. So they sell to the pet stores and things like that, and breeders kind of are whatever's left over.
Yeah.
And when you get to the point where you're trying to actually produce snakes on a consistent level in a large amount, living on the fringe doesn't work. So kind of out of a necessity, we started breeding rodents, but on a very small scale, out behind our house. We had like a 10 by 12 shed, insulated it, put the AC, heat in and all that. And I bred pretty much enough where I could feed all my babies.
Gotcha.
And I would buy, smalls and medium rats to do the ball pythons, and then I always bought frozen thawed from Rodent Pro to feed to the boa constrictors. And then about 6 years ago, it got to the point where I needed a lot of rodents, but the cost was a lot to do rodents and to do them right. So we were like, all right, well, we'll turn the rodents into kind of a side business. The main business of Conley Herps is always going to be snakes. But I started selling rodents to offset my cost of how much it cost me to keep all the rodents going. That kind of spiraled out of control, and it became a huge business in and of its own. And so now, like, my rat room is 2,000 square feet, and on a given week we can produce anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 rats a week. We started doing mice much later. I hated mice my entire life. I dislike them because they can get out of everything. So we started doing mice only as a necessity because we couldn't get hopper mice when we needed hopper mice to feed to the hatchling ball pythons. And that started literally in this building in one tiny rack of 24 birthing tubs, basically, where we do a male to 5 females. And that now ballooned. We don't make many mice, but we do at least 1,000 mice a week we make.
Gracious.
And then that business kind of took on a life of its own after we had a facility fire, and we had to lean more on the rodent income than the snake income. And now we've kind of come full circle where this will actually be our first year where the snake money is what pays the bulk of the bills again, which is what I've always wanted.
That's wild. So just the fact that, like I said, you started off like in a shed in the back. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I have like 6 tub, 1 rat, 6 tubs, and that's pretty much how I'm gonna start until I can, build on it after. So that's good to know, because a lot of people feel like if you don't have a big facility, it's not gonna really work.
Well, everybody has to start somewhere, and unless you're a millionaire, you can't just say, I'm gonna start off, guns blazing. And I don't really even believe that's an intelligent marketing decision, or not marketing, but business decision to go in with $1 million and just buy stuff. It really helps to develop clients. That's a lot easier over time versus saying your first year out of the gate. Like if you make 50 or 60 clutches, which is not hard for somebody established to sell 50 or 60 clutches of babies, if you don't have the clients you have to worry about feeding those for a long period of time.
Yeah.
You have to worry about housing those babies for a long period
Yeah.
of time. And that really makes it a drag for most people. And you'll
Yeah.
hear a lot of people that kind of get in and out of the hobby mostly start off and you're like, wow, that's amazing how much they have in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's a beginner level species, so then they produce it, and then it becomes really like I said, it becomes a drain on you, where it's not fun anymore if you're doing it for a hobby. If you have a full-time job, you have to keep in mind that each animal still requires care, even though they are snakes and they don't need as much hand-holding.
Yeah, and see, that's what most people tend to forget and wonder why their snakes are so aggressive in tubs, because my research I did, like, at least 10 minutes out of the week of holding your snake. From what I've heard, you should do that way. At least they get to know, like, your touch, know that you're basically not a threat.
Yeah. Well, they're just like any other animal. They're, at least what I've found over time, is each species has to be treated different. You know, each one has its own evolutionary point to where it needs this to feel comfortable. If it feels comfortable, it'll thrive for you.
Yeah.
So in ball pythons, they seem to really care about security, which lends themselves to they like darker areas, or they like hide boxes, or they like tubs that are shorter versus tall. And if you give them a tall glass aquarium, you have to give them all these places to hide and stuff like that. So you're still going to run into individual personalities in the grand scheme of things. There's a bell curve of personalities. They all average this type of personality, but every once in a while you'll hatch a ball python that has zero fear of humans.
Yeah.
You know, I call them public relations snakes.
Yeah.
You open the tub and they come right out. They don't hiss. You can rub their heads. They don't jerk away. They're great for taking out in the public. And you know, when you're trying to have an ambassador for a snake.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite end, you have buttholes.
Yeah.
You know, you have just psychos that will light you up constantly, no matter how much you
put
try to
their hand
help
in.
them. No different than humans. You have the super nice people that
Yeah.
you can bully, and then you have the ones that'll murder you for no reason.
Yeah.
And then everything in the middle. There's the normal distribution where if you are, you know, assaulted, then you will fight back.
Yeah.
Ball python's no different. They just tend to be more towards that really chill, laid back, which lends themselves to being played with. And the more you play with them, typically, the better they behave.
Perfect. That's good information. Next, you said that you do a lot of distribution when it comes to rodent. How did that even come about? Like, how did you get your distribution so high? Was it just like far as just talking to people, or just like, you know, just putting yourself out there, just letting it be known?
For the rodents?
Yeah.
Well, for the rodents, really, and even it's true to this day, where I never have enough rodents. We rely on the income, so we're always making sure we fill our institutional clients' demand. But once again, the random people that I would sell to, they would feel the brunt of it. If I don't have something, they're not going to get it. You know? And it's not anything personal. It's just
business as it goes.
I don't control it. If it was, you know, a printing press, and we could just say we need 1,000 hopper mice every single week, and I just dumped in DNA and it pumped them out, that'd be one thing. But you have ebbs and flows in production. So basically, to answer that question is, we only wanted to have like one customer, because it was never supposed to be really a business. It was just saying, hey, we as an example, right now I use 1,000 or 2,000 pounds of rodent food every week. Every week.
Okay.
So I know how much that costs. Then the power bill is anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 every month. So all those go into your cost of goods sold. How much does it cost me to produce this? So you're always kind of walking a line to say, I have to make sure I have enough to feed my stuff, but I have to make sure I cover my expenses too of it. So in a house situation, you don't have those expenses, which is way nicer. Our benefit is just we're not going to be regulated like at a house, where we're allowed to do what we want. The customers, it's never an issue to get customers. You may have to put yourself out there, you know, on Facebook or King Snake or whatever, you know, social media you want to get on. But for my part, I really just wanted a pet store, and we started selling to Animal Jungle, which was the big reptile and neat exotics, type pet store in Virginia Beach. And we got them, and that was a huge account, so I didn't need anybody else. It was just make sure we could fill them and feed our stuff. And then, like I said, things kind of spiraled out of control, and we started selling to more pet stores and the zoo and some museums, and it became a lot. And it's still not what I really want to do. The snakes are what I like to do.
It just the rats kind of like tagged along basically.
It did, and they served their purpose. Like
Yeah.
I said, we had problems after a fire, and they really did carry us. But on the rodent end, just always know that what you make and when you pick up customers, that demand is I guess the word cyclical, where 3 or 4 months out of the year could be extremely heavy demand, and then for the rest of the year maybe nothing.
Yeah.
And when you have an institutional client like the zoo or the pet stores, they pretty much order a very similar order every single week or every month. And so as a production, when you're thinking about it as far as business, you can say, all right, I have to make this amount to meet my demand, because we know that's what they're roughly going to be ordering at any given time. And that's way easier than the huge ebbs and flows of if you just sold to people off the street. So that's the two differences really.
Okay. Last question before we get to how many hours could you say roughly do you spend on just like maintenance on just the rats itself?
The rats are by far, well, when I say rats, I'm going to just be generically including mice in there because I don't separate it for the timesheet. But 80 hours a week is rodents. Yeah,
that's crazy. That's more hours than like our shipyard here. That's the crazy part.
Well, we have once again, if different business models will have different demands on labor, but for us, not only are we making it, but we're killing it, we're packaging it, we're freezing it, we're distributing it.
Yeah.
So all that goes into just time. I mean, like on frozen rodents, my opinion is frozen rodents should be more expensive than live rodents because it takes my employees longer to do it. We have to clean the rodents, I mean, you're gassing them, you have to clean them, you have to put them in bags that people aren't really paying for.
Yeah.
So, it is very time, and to do it well, I should say, is very time consuming. You can set up them in racks and just walk away and hope for the best, and most of the time, over time, that's not going to work out. Because you'll end up with clogged water lines and things like that. So it really is farming, and you really just have to be on top of all the little basic things. You have to make sure they're fed, you have to make sure they're watered, you have to make sure the water is working, and if you don't, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Gotcha. Okay. So, now, well, everybody's probably waiting for the snake part. So, what made you, what gave you the bug? Like, what made you say, okay, I'm going to breed, I'm going to breed pythons, I'm going to breed bulls. Like, how did that come about?
Well, I'd always been what I would call just a snake geek. Like, my entire life, like, everything that involved my life was me with snakes somehow. When I was a kid, I'd like to go out in the wild and catch them. I'm not really for that anymore. I'm too old. I don't care about being bit by ticks and getting chiggers and all that stuff. I've done that. I never intended to do this as a business. I got my degree in economics and worked on Wall Street and was a financial advisor, and I still manage a lot of my family's money. But snakes are just what I enjoy, and I call this a hobby business.
Okay.
I'd like to do other businesses, after I get this one, completely established, where it can be managed without me being on premise constantly.
Gotcha.
But the snake aspect would never. If I had $100 million in the bank right now, I'd have a lot of snakes. I'd have more snakes.
Yeah.
This is like an addiction, kind of.
Yeah.
Like right now, we only have boa constrictors and ball pythons, and I would have more. But in order to do more appropriately, you need more rooms.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of rooms, but you have to keep things quarantined because Asian snakes could kill your South American snakes, which could kill your African snakes. I mean, and when you're in business, you always have to think of the worst. Kind of at the beginning, the normal entrance into this hobby, I'd say, is people, they get astonished at what they can get their hands on because you're used to seeing it in a book.
Yeah.
And now you can kind of order anything that you want, and you accumulate all these different animals, and then you realize what you like to work with.
Yeah.
And so I've worked with a lot of different species. As a snake geek, I like almost all snakes. That doesn't mean I want to keep all snakes.
Yeah.
But I found that the ball python in particular was what I consider to be the best pet snake. I know that's very arguable. I mean, there's lots of good king snakes and corn snakes and things like that, and boas make great, big snakes that don't get too big. But a ball python is slow moving. They have a huge margin of error because they have body weight, So when you set up your ball python from a snake show and it doesn't eat for a couple of weeks, as long as you have good advice coming from the breeder or the person that you bought it from, you don't panic because you have all this nice body weight.
Gotcha.
You know, on king snakes and corn snakes, and for the most part, they eat like house of fire. But I mean, when they don't, if you're new to it, it's very stressful. In our business model, we don't sell anything that's a problem feeder, just because we guarantee it, and I'd have to buy it back no matter what. But you know, in a lot of institutions, they're buying the snakes and selling them, so they have to. And I understand that business model where you have to sell something because you paid money for it. You can't stay in business if you constantly lose money. But that then falls on to the person buying it, and if once again, if they're not skilled enough at it, and it passes away, it gives you a bad taste in your mouth. So with the ball python, even to people what I call green, just completely new to keeping snakes, that's a huge window, and I can, as long as I keep them calm, like only offer once a week, do this, and it'll be fine, and it works out virtually every single time. And then the people have a good experience because once again, ball pythons are chill and relaxed, and you can sit and watch TV, and the snake's not darted off somewhere. You know, so just as a complete personal preference and what I thought would be good for as a foundation for a business, I went with ball pythons. And they treated me very well.
Gotcha. Okay, so to piggyback off of one of your answers, what would be your favorite gene to work with in the ball python world?
If I'm looking at a snake, it's my favorite gene is usually how I would say it. Because if I'm showing you, like, this is my favorite snake. Because they all have a reason for being, like, your favorite. You know, it's like kids. When you make them, you're like, I really like this snake. Even if it's not that spectacular, you're like, I like the story behind it, or I like the specific parents that made it, or whatever it is. But generically, piebald. Anything that has to do with piebald. And the only reason I'd say that dominates everything is just because in 2004 I bought a cinnamon male ball python from Nerd. It was either $7,500 or $8,500. They were very new at the time. And I was super excited about it. And I showed it to a friend of mine's mom at a snake show. You know, and she came up, she looked at it, and she was like, oh, okay. You know, and to me it was like the coolest thing in the world, and to see somebody that just was like, it was like a flat tire. It was like, well, that's really, because I mean, when you spend that much money, what you want is wow. You know, you want somebody's eyes to open up. And what I found simply with things that don't look natural, like plain old albinos and piebalds, even though they're common nowadays, when you show it to kids that aren't either new to this or adults that haven't really been a part of it, it's like mind-blowing. You know, they're like, that is crazy that works that way. And then it opens up all these questions, and then questions lead to education. Education leads to a more willingness of the animals to be socially accepted. You know, it's not going to just be everybody's buying snakes, but maybe in 50 years the snake is a very common pet. You know. So I mean, I think they're great, but everybody's got their own cup of tea. Just like I'm scared of spiders and would not realistically own a spider, but I mean, I'm not going to knock somebody else for it. And I'm sure if I was educated on the spider, you know, I'd feel better about it. But I'm cool, you know.
Like from afar.
It's cool. I won't kill them.
What would be the hardest gene that you think you had to work with out of the years you've been doing?
Well, to be honest, there's a gene that we have here that was named, a guy that a good friend of mine named it, called the suede. And the suede was just something I had bought from Nerd. It was a Posset caramel, and caramels were like $7,000 or $10,000 a piece. I made them early on. They were still like $5,000 a piece. But I bought this group of Posset caramels from Kevin at Daytona. They were just really weird looking. And this was long before, this is like 2000 or 2001, so this is long before any of these codon things that are just like hints of a normal snake, you know what I'm saying? Like when you look at it, you're like, it really looks normal, but it's a gene.
You definitely know there's something there.
Well, the suede was like that. And I generically, when I would hatch them, I called them blackheads. And this was long before Ralph had his blackhead. And I just never dinkered with stuff. I worked with specific genes, and out of the house I didn't have that much space, so I would always hold a couple back, but then when you were like, I'm out of space, am I going to sell the spider, am I going to sell the suede? So I'd get rid of that. But we've been able to work with the gene, and I make mystic potions that are really crazy now. And I mean, I don't think it's too egotistical to say it, but like, if you see our mystic potions that we routinely make, because a lot of them have the suede gene in it, ours stay very, very high contrast as an adult. We're actually trying to make them stay purple as an adult, and I think I'll be able to do that. But that gene, for the simple fact that I've had it for so long, and I still can't really explain. I know it's at least dominant or codominant. At least is that. But this is our first year where we're breeding swayed to 3 swayed females just to see what happens.
Okay.
I've never cared for dinkering.
Yeah.
So this by far has been the biggest amount of time sucked up, and I have animals stuffed in racks that have just been sitting there for years because I didn't want to sell it, just in case it was something. So hopefully by the end of this season we'll know what's up with that. But that one has probably cost me the most money.
Okay. Well, hopefully, guys, y'all heard it there. Maybe we can, try to see it when it happens, when that clutch happens. With one more question, what would be your favorite reptile show that you think you went to?
Oh man, Tinley Park. Daytona back in the day when it was held in Orlando was. And I've never been in international shows, so I'm ignorant when it comes to that. But Daytona, what is now Daytona, used to be in Orlando. That was really what kind of knocked me off my feet as far as, like, people do this and make money. And back then it was completely a different type of economy in reptiles, but it was like, I guess, like the Detroit Auto Show, only people were buying the stuff that was on the floor, and it was always like, if you didn't buy it, the guy behind you would.
Yeah.
And we've started to experience that recently, like at Tinley Park, in the March show, we just did, we sold off of 2 tables, it was like 39 snakes in a weekend, and the average snake was many $100s, and people were just lined up. So as soon as one person walked away from the table, if they had refused to buy the snake, then the person behind them bought it.
So either way, like that's crazy because we just been to the local show. So the next Tinley show, I'm definitely going to make sure I'm there because that, like I said, me and our camera guy, that's just going to be a wonderful experience for us because that'll be a major show. We'll probably get to meet some of the other major breeders that's out there actually get to talk and like actually
Tinley, even if the breeder isn't there as a business, they're there. Other than maybe like Kevin and Bob Clark, you don't really see them much anymore. But Ty Park and all the mega breeders are there. They may not have a table set up, but they're walking around. The old school guys are there walking around. Pretty much anybody that is a professional breeder is at both the March and the October. The October's giant. I'd say by today's standards, probably the Tinley October show is probably the best show in the country, but the Pomona Super Show is really good. But this one has a very I'd have to say more elegant, more professional, like, I used to work in conference services way back in the day in college, and we set up for all these trade shows. And what always blew me away from their trade show versus ours is like if you were selling pharmaceuticals, you weren't there with any product to sell. You just showed stuff and you were trying to get the clients. And then the difference, of course, with ours is we're actually there trying to make the money. But it gives you the more professional feel when you're walking around Tinley.
Gotcha. So we'll definitely make sure we're there and Daytona and Tinley. So those are our next 2 that we're definitely going to try to get to. Before the interview, if it's possible, we'll see if you can show us one of your favorite snakes that you would like to show off. And before that, you have anything that anybody that would say to, like, if somebody walked up to you and said, I want to be a breeder, or how would I go about being a breeder, or anything like that? Do you have any, like, tips or anything, helpful hints that will help anybody that's just starting off?
Well, I guess there's several things. One is when you're getting into it, try to get in with somebody that's been doing it for a while. A lot of times you can, I don't want to say work for them because they're not usually paid, but you can intern basically. And it gives you a chance to ask a lot of questions and see a lot of things. There's no substitute for hand-on experience, so you can read all you want, but once you've done it a few times, you'll feel way more confident than after you've read it. It's just the way it is. Once you've laid hands on it and done it for a little bit, it'll be easier. And then other than that, just always know what your lane is. Kind of like that little comedian, I can't remember his name, but there's one comedian that's always like, know your financial lane.
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart, yeah. So it's like, just because you want to do this, like you're looking at it, doesn't mean you need to go out and blow all your wad on a couple stupid expensive snakes because you want to be known instantly. I would argue that it's better to start slower and make sure that you like it. And then once again, gradually build into it so that you're not under any huge financial stresses. It is a beginner level species, but with everything, there's a learning curve. I can't tell you how quick you are going to be to pick it up, you know. And one of the biggest disappointments for me is when people badmouth the hobby and say it doesn't work. It's like there's a difference between a hobby and a business.
Yeah.
The hobby is I get to do what I want.
Yeah.
You know, if we want to work with tokay geckos as a hobby, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You need people that do that. But if you're like, I'm going to breed 8 million tokay geckos, that may not be the greatest business model.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to really go into it understanding, am I trying to do this, am I selling stuff, or am I trying to make stuff for me?
Okay.
And even once you're a business, you still have to argue with that in your head, because there's certain snakes I want. Do I make them or do I buy them? I have to figure out, is it cheaper for me, or is it more prohibitive for me to make it?
Okay.
Because I could make, with that same animal, I can make something else that may be more valuable to my business.
Okay.
So I don't know. The generic answer is try and get as much hands-on experience, and then try to know as best you can what direction you want to go, so that you're not always a dog chasing the tail. You know.
Gotcha.
There's always going to be a lot of genes out there, more than you will realistically be able to afford. So do what you like.
Okay. All right, guys. Those tips right there. You heard it first. We'll try to check out these snakes, and then we'll go ahead and finish this interview, I guess. Alright, guys, so it's the big deal. He's about to show us some of these awesome snakes, and I'm already seeing what's in this tub, and it's crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and give it to Anthony. Why don't you go ahead and take it from there?
Alright, the first snake is going back to some of my favorite genes. Simple combination. This is a banana pie girl. Anything that makes a woman say, wow, that's not into snakes, is always in favor in my book. And this is, no matter how many of these you have, people just stop all day and look at them and say, that's unbelievable. So I like to make as many of these. When we're trying to add in Orange Dream, Inchy, and Yellow Belly, that way, no matter what you make, they're all good combinations inside that. Something very similar, another recessive project that we work with is Clown, and this is actually from a banana Inchy clown to some other genetics. I don't believe this animal has Inchy in it. I believe it's just a byproduct. The high orange is a byproduct of the parent's very nice Inchy. But even in ball pythons, you know, selective breeding, trying to find the characteristics that you like, in my case color, and then the clown, and we're trying to combine them so that when it ages, it doesn't just become literally a banana that you can't see the clown pattern in. So excited to work with these guys. Fire Butter Inchy is another thing that I'm really kind of in love with. Okay. And what a normal one looks like is this. So this is just the 3 genes, Fire, Butter, and Inchy. When they grow up, they look the same. They don't fade out or anything like that. They're very impressive. It's a good set of genes. You can breed with a lot of stuff. As an example, this is a Fire Butter Inchy plus pastel. So normally not the biggest pastel fan, but you can see this thing is just screaming bright, and as an adult it's even brighter. So the fire and the pastel really work well together in this combination. And then very similar, this is a super Inchy Fire Butter that's also possible pastel. I was leaning towards pastel, but it's just going to be something I'm going to have to kind of breed to figure it out. We were lucky, I made a pair of these this year, so I'm keeping those back, plug them into some clown stuff. I really want to make Fire Butter Inchy Leopard Orange Dream clowns. Ooh, so that's a powerhouse. Yeah, so you need lots of genes to plug into them to give you any shot at really making it, you know? Yeah. That's a powerhouse. Alright. And then one of the new things in ball pythons is the scaleless head phenomenon to make the scaleless. And this is a really high expression in the face. And this is a pastel Inchy Fire scaleless head. So once again, we're going to be shooting to try to make Fire Butter Inchy scaleless animals. This has 1 extra gene, but that's okay. I'll take it. That is crazy. These were born, this one clutch was born exceptionally small. I mean, the babies were probably like 40 grams. Mm-hmm. So even though it's got some age to it, it's still noticeably smaller than the majority of the snakes that we hatched out, but
some snakes have different growth rate though too, don't they?
yeah, I like to joke and say the smaller they are, the better the feeders they're going to be, because a lot of times they have chips on their shoulder. The little ones are like little bastards. You know, they bite a lot and they want to eat a lot. So you can tell that it's chunky. It's just small, but you can see the face.
Yeah, I was about to say he has weight on him. It just look like he's just like it's a midget.
Yeah. When they hatched, we couldn't tell if they were scaleless heads or not because they were so small, and so we were having to use like magnifying glass to look at them. And then last but not least in this bin, this is, if we can get his head to come out. Come on, fella. This is a banana inchy leopard het clown, also paradox, but very excited about this male. We hatched him and we had a banana inchy clown that I just sold. So once I sold the banana inchy clown, this guy's going to be one of my holdbacks now.
That is crazy. Everybody knows I love paradox, so that paradox spot is just, that's crazy.
Yeah, we've got our fingers crossed. This year we're trying to make banana inchy leopard clowns. Is that it? Banana inchy leopard clown? I think that's it. There may be another G there, but
so that's, like I said, the combos that you just showed and the combos that you're working with to make, that is crazy. That clown, I think my favorite one that so far would be the clown banana. That's crazy.
Well, right now, clowns are probably, other than pod, because pods just always sell, but the clown stuff is very strong on the market. Very
especially
strong.
after the whole.
You've got all sorts of magma, the Red Stripe project. You got the banana stuff to work with, the Orange Dream stuff. So
yeah, that's crazy. Well, guys, this is Anthony. He let us come into his facility, gave us a wonderful interview. He showed us some amazing snakes, guys. Like, you guys do not understand. Like, it's like Christmas all over for me right now. So, like I said, thank you. From Applied Pressure Reptiles, we enjoyed ourselves here. This is a bomb interview. These are some amazing snakes. Hopefully, in the future, I can, like I said, this is what I want to do. So, definitely gave me a boost. I'm pretty sure there's some other people out here that's going to enjoy this video, or know there's other people that's going to get a boost from these and these awesome snakes. But definitely, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And this is Daryl, the Applied Pressure Reptiles, guys. And we'll make sure you see us in the next video.